Chris Scalzo here with
Matt Howell.
And this episode of The First Run, Matt and I are going to discuss Jackie, the Natalie Portman-led film about the days, well, the after effects really of JFK's assassination. We're also going to tell you what's coming up on Blu-ray and DVD on January 24th. We're going to continue our monster movie or horror marathon, stuff that came out in 2016 that we did not get to see, with The Monster. And then it's going to be the return of What Are the Odds? Everybody's favorite role-playing game where, as always, we never go back to see how accurate or inaccurate we were. Really, it's an entire waste of time, but it'll be an entertaining 45 plus minutes waste of your time. So let's start everything off with a quick listen to a clip from Jackie.
People like to believe in fairy tales.
And you?
I believe that the characters we read about on the page end up being more real than the men who stand beside us. And I'm saying, Jack, can you hear me? Jack, I love you, Jack.
People need their history. They need to know that real men actually lived here.
Well, I've grown accustomed to a great divide between what people believe and what I know to be real.
And how would you like him remembered?
There should be more horses, more soldiers.
Why are you doing this, Mrs. Kennedy?
There's more crying, more cameras.
This is making us look like barbarians.
What's wrong with you? You don't have to do this.
I will march with Jack. Alone if necessary. I'm not the First Lady anymore.
Matt, so this is Pablo Larian's extrapolation of Theodore White's Life magazine interview with Jackie after JFK's assassination. And we have Natalie Portman playing Jackie, Peter Sarsgaard as Robert F. Kennedy, Greta Gerwig as Nancy Tuckerman, Billy Crudup plays Theodore White, credited only as the journalist in the film, and John Hurt, who I did not realize how old John Hurt has gotten. Sweet Christ. We better put the clock on John Hurt, please. Then Richard E. Grant as well, and some other people. So, man, this is a particularly somber, morose time in the history of this country. I remember my mother was a very young woman when JFK was assassinated, and how absolutely devastated she was, much like most people were in the country. But this film really gets into the behind-the-scenes actions of Jackie and how she handled the assassination, how they planned the funeral services, but also just how everything kind of impacted her personally, and how she still had to maintain the role of First Lady for a time. Matt, there's been a lot of Oscar talk, and I guess I can pop you out right out of the way. And I don't know, unless I'm going to be robbing you of one of your What Are the Odds, Matt, but let me ask you, what are the odds Natalie Portman gets nominated for an Academy Award for this role as Jackie?
Nominated? I'd say 98%. I mean, I guess I'm going to give a 2% chance that the Academy doesn't. I guess nothing's guaranteed, but yeah, I would definitely say that she's going to get at least nominated for this role.
I would be shocked if she didn't as well. Where do you fall down on her winning? I'm sure there's been some strong female lead roles this year, but though I have 20th Century Women, which I think just came out,
right?
I think probably has something to go there, but
to be quite honest with you, I don't even know who she would go up against. I guess if we were a better show. Let me vamp here a little bit.
Well, Emma Stone for La La Land, I think, is a good pick.
Yeah, very true.
And there's going to be some little independent ones that we haven't had a chance to catch up with because, Batman or Captain America wasn't in it.
Right. All right. So this is who was in. Now, she was nominated for drama by the Golden Globes. Now, obviously, they have a musical and comedy, which I think La La Land was into, but her competition was Ruth Negga from Loving, Jessica Chastain from Miss Sloane, which I haven't seen, Amy Adams from Arrival, and Isabel Huppert from Elle.
L's the big one that I haven't had a chance to check out. Yeah, so I think a dark horse maybe even be Amy Adams in Nocturnal Animals, but that would be a really big dark horse pick.
Yeah.
So and Ruth Negga, which we haven't talked about, I've had a chance to see it in Loving. I think she's great in that. But you know what? I think at this point, the early handicap would have to be Natalie v. Emma Stone for me.
Okay.
But that's interesting. So. All right.
I mean, and Emma Stone won for the comedy on the Golden Globes up against Annette Bening, Lily Collins, Haley Steinfeld, and Meryl Streep.
Meryl who?
Meryl Streep. Have you heard of her? She's,
I've heard
she's an up and comer.
I've heard she's
late bloomer,
overrated. A little overrated. Yeah. So Matt, let me ask you. It's just an interesting time in the country's history. Were you engrossed by this? Did you actually find this whole story, this whole portrayal of this role interesting? What were your thoughts on Jackie? Let me give you a nice broad question that you can go wherever you want to go.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you for the softball. So I mean, I think when you see this, I think I think most people are going to think this is a typical biopic where it's going to be like the life of Jackie Kennedy, and then when Jackie Onassis and all that kind of stuff. But like you said, it's really not. It's really very, very focused on the immediate aftermath of the assassination. And it kind of, I was unfamiliar with the Ted White or Theodore White article, so I've never read it or the interview. Right. So for me, it was kind of like a fascinating focus on the assassination that you really didn't hear that much about. Her kind of obsessing on what is her position now, what is his legacy, what is she going to do with the kids, how much that grasping at whatever power she has left to try and make as many changes as she can. All of that I thought was pretty riveting for the entire process, and it kind of showed you a side of it that I don't think a lot of people knew about unless they've read the interview.
So I agree with you. It was really fascinating for me too as she deals with the legacy or potential lack thereof, because JFK had been in a few things and involved in some incidents or actions as president, but they had, as they portray in the film, so many more ideas and so many things that they wanted to do that they never got to do. And it's just interesting seeing her that when she's discussing the other presidents who had been assassinated and how few of them are actually remembered. Really only Lincoln's the one that stands out, but it's because he did great things. So I think her struggling to deal with that was really interesting. I think, though, for me, is the whole film lives and dies, probably should I use a different term for that, but on Natalie Portman's portrayal. And let me tell you, it is a searing portrayal of Jackie Kennedy. For me, she's absolutely riveting in this film. And you'll notice, too, that Lorraine, you notice, Matt, how he frames everything. Like the film itself is an interview. It's very tight shots of Jackie. Sometimes with Billy Crudup as well. Then we get larger crowd scenes or more characters. Things do expand a little bit. But for the most part, whenever it's Jackie telling the story, he really kind of frames her up, and she is the center of what we're looking at the whole time. So, she captures the sadness and horror of the assassination and its aftermath just exquisitely. It's a stunning thing to watch. I was really impressed and blown away by it. The fact that she's balancing this anger and fear with also trying to still be, refined and reserved and maintain the first lady pretenses and expectations. I think it's fantastic. But when she's ready to drop their hammer when she needs to, there were thoughts at the time that she was a bit of a lightweight, that she was focusing on remodeling and upgrading the White House, which she is largely responsible for. And they got a lot of flack for it back in the day. That place was in real disrepair when the Kennedys moved in. But she was all about decorating, and she was beautiful, demure, and all that stuff. But she was a woman who understood her and her husband's place in history and wanted to make sure that was solidified. My mother once told me too, and I can't confirm the accuracy of this, but I'm fairly confident it would be accurate. It would be true that, there's a famous scene when the boy salutes his father's coffin. And she's like, she told that Jackie told him to do that. That was not a spontaneous move on the kid's part. She told him to do that ahead of time, just to have that moment ingrained in history. And it wouldn't surprise me. It was just a fascinating film, really, is where it comes down to me for me, Matt. It was fascinating. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, like you said, this movie, everything, is held together by Natalie Portman's performance. She really embodies the role, and she really just knocks it out of the park. Kind of everything, the period, everything around it, is kind of is magnetized, is drawn through her and through her lens. So it's a powerful piece, and I appreciated that. It kind of showed both sides. It kind of flipped between, having sympathy for her for what she was going through, but then also kind of showing that kind of ruthless, like you said, dropping the hammer side to kind of get what she wanted or what she felt like she had to do, and that kind of calculating piece of her. It was, something, again, I was not particularly familiar with her character, and I thought it was very interesting to see.
Yeah, and I want to mention one issue I may have had with the film. I struggled with Skarsgård. I think he didn't particularly maintain his accent exceptionally well. Maybe he was doing a more subdued version of it, and I'm expecting this bombastic kind of Pak the Ka type thing, which he didn't do. But still, I didn't feel that distant for me. Though I thought Skarsgård himself was strong in the film. And I think you know where I'm going with this, Matt. Where do you think of Mika Levy's score? Mika Levy, if you're not familiar, she did the score for In Her Skin or Under the Skin. See, now I'm blanking out which one it is. It was Scarlett Johansson alien stalker movie. And that's one of my favorite things about that film is the score. Again, I think Levy's score here adds another character for me for this film. It's a force in this film, the way the music plays and just kind of just interweaves and breathes through this movie, adding just a depth and it's weird because there's depth, emotion, and then kind of really bringing it in, re-examining or impact. Which word I'm looking for? Just furthering the impact of the chaos of the time as well, of these moments. I think is just it's beautiful. I absolutely it's one of my favorite scores of the year, hands down. Mika Levy, she does it again, absolutely fantastic. I don't know if it was this. I know I'm more in tune with that than you are typically, so I don't know if you had the same, if you noticed it as much as I did.
I obviously did not, because I'm struggling even to remember the music, because I saw it a few weeks ago, so it didn't make it really much of an impact. But I will take your word for it. I trust you know what you're talking about when it comes to this stuff.
Fair enough. Well, I appreciate you granting that to me. So thank you very much.
One concession. It's your one concession for the show.
It's my one for the year.
Yep.
So where are you falling letter grade then for Jack? Do you have anything else to any thoughts you wanted to share?
No. I mean, obviously this is still one of those Oscar bait movies. You should definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. If you've kind of gone through some of the other ones we've talked about, Moonlight and La La Land and Manchester by the Sea, you should definitely check this out. I would give it a solid B+. I don't think as a film overall, like, it has a chance to win Best Picture, but I definitely think it's going to have some nominations to it, and I think it's well deserved, most of them. I
agree with you entirely. That's how I would describe it as well. I would probably say B+. And nominations for sure. Wins, maybe Natalie, but that might be it for me. So, excellent. If you've had a chance to see Jackie, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, let's talk about what's coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday. That's January 24th. Inferno. More Tom Hanks, Dan Brown mediocreness continues. If you get it from Best Buy, there's a 4K steelbook. It's lead and extended scenes, 6 featurettes, one of them being, of course, Why Are We Still Doing This? A movie we're going to talk about in a little bit, The Monster, is getting released on Blu-ray as well. The Light Between Oceans, director Derek Cianfrance's film with Michael Fassbender and Alicia Vikander and Rachel Weisz with the doctor and the woman across the water and the fall in love and then the stuff and that thing. That's being released. That's supposed to be like a big kind of independent film that's kind of seemed to fizzle out, but now you have a chance to catch up with it. I haven't seen any of season 4 of Sherlock, Matt, but it's getting released on Blu-ray this Tuesday. Includes some behind-the-scenes featurettes on that. New to Blu-ray, Criterion is giving us Black Girl. Osman Sembien, one of the greatest and most groundbreaking filmmakers who ever lived, as well as the most internationally renowned African director of the 20th century. But his name deserves to be better known in the rest of the world. I tell you, Matt, I had no idea who he was. So he made his feature debut in '66 with a brilliant and stirring Black Girl. Sembien, who was also an acclaimed novelist in his native Senegal, transforms a deceptively simple plot about a young Senegalese woman who moves to France to work for a wealthy white couple and finds that life in their small apartment becomes a prison, both figuratively and literally, into a complexly layered critique of the lingering colonialist mindset of a supposedly post-colonial world. This sounds fascinating to me, and I'd like to check it out. Includes an all-new 4K digital restoration of the film, as well as a whole wealth, I should say, of behind-the-scenes featurettes. Man Who Fell to Earth, the David Bowie Alien film, which I have to tell you, isn't really that good. It's getting released with a Blu-ray DVD and a digital copy in a limited digipack packaging. Listen, Bowie's great in it, but the film itself is kind of, I think you got to be a little high to really enjoy the bon mot, the details, the little intricacies of The Man Who Fell to Earth. And then a really kind of, I don't know if people have seen this. I think it's a classic. Wait Until Dark, the Audrey Hepburn film where she plays a recently blinded woman and she's terrorized by a trio of thugs who think that there's some jewels in the walls of her apartment. No, I'm sorry, as a heroin stuffed doll. It's been a while since I've seen it, obviously. But for me, Dollars for Donuts, Matt, one of the best jump scares in the history of cinema for me. If you haven't seen Shot in the Dark, a very different film. Wait Until Dark. And they also, I think, one of the first films to do that through the viewpoint of our lead who's blind, or the whole darkness thing. So that's getting released on Blu-ray. I'm very excited about that. And Arcade Fire's The Reflector Tapes, which is a documentary on the making of Reflector, which is an album I absolutely love, as well as a capture of their performance at Earl's Court for the Reflector Tour. So if you're an Arcade Fire fan, that is getting released on Blu-ray as well. You're straight to DVD pick of the week, Matt. I went with the Beauty Queen Butcher. Mean Girls meets Carrie. When a shy, overweight, and bullied girl exacts bloody revenge on her popular classmates in this early 90s shot-on-video shocker, inspired by the horror classic Carrie and the slasher favorite Prom Night. It's bad enough when the popular girls of Slivets, Slough High pranked Fatty. It actually hurts me to read that. It really does. Fatty Phyllis into entering the Beauty Queen pageant when they microwaved her cat. Watch out. Watch the pretty girls pay, Matt, in the most gruesome ways when Phyllis, armed and dangerous, exacts her gory revenge with her reanimated, recently microwaved cat. I add that last part because I really hope that's what happens. But absolutely just atrocious. Whoever even wrote that is just a horrible person.
The worst part about the straight to DVD picks of the week is that I always want to see them, and then as our marathon, I have to go back and remind myself, no, remember how bad that was.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Not something you want to pursue. So, Matt, is there anything we should be streaming this week?
Yeah, so a film that I didn't catch up with until relatively recently, and Chris absolutely loved. On Amazon Prime, you have Creed, which is the story of Apollo Creed's son, Adonis Johnson, played by Michael B. Jordan, getting trained as an up-and-coming boxer by Rocky Balboa, who's played by Sylvester Stallone, obviously. And this is one of those films that when it came out, I was like, this is going into the why file. Why does this exist kind of thing? This doesn't need to be there, but it's surprisingly good, and it's definitely worth your time if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's a great pick, Matt. Yeah, I still think Stallone should have. Was he nominated? There was something where I was upset. Either he wasn't nominated or I felt he should have won. Is that the one where he lost?
I don't remember if he was nominated or not.
I think he was nominated, but he lost to the guy from Bridge of Spies with that small role where he plays the Russian spy. And I was very upset about that. All right, fair enough. Great pick. All right, Matt. So let's keep the train rolling. Let's take a break and listen to a clip from The Monster.
What time is it?
It's 12:15.
God, I'm so excited.
Don't do that. accident. Let's go back to the car. Dogs don't got teeth like this. There are monsters. They come
Matt, Brian Boitano leaves the Olympics and decides to start making movies. I'm sorry, it's Brian Bertino.
Oh, completely different, Chris.
Very different. Brian Bertino did the film The Strangers back in, what was that, 2009? 2008? 2008.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with The Strangers, it's a cruel little film starring Scott Speedman and Liv Tyler, as they are basically assaulted and murdered by three people who just happened to stumble along them because they wanted something fun to do. It's a brutal film, Matt, and there's not a lot of hope in that movie at all. So this is only his second directorial effort. It's been a while, and he's back with The Monster, a film released, Matt, by our beloved A24. So for us, A24 do no wrong. So we're always excited when they release a new film. This time we have a monster, Matt, who is stalking a young woman and her young child as they get in a car accident and are stuck alone on a desolate road. How many times have we seen this?
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, does it get past the cliche, Matt? And does A24 have another hit on their hands? Does it all come together? What do you think of The Monster? Did you love it?
I don't love it. I don't love it, unfortunately. I wanted to like this film. And I thought for maybe the first half it was really interesting. So, this is a story of a single mother who obviously has some kind of substance abuse problems with
drunk,
her.
I think she's a drunk.
Yeah, she's a drunk. She's an alcoholic. Yeah, at the very least, she's an alcoholic. She has a young daughter who is in the scenario, this position of taking care of the parent, and she's had enough, and she's demanded basically to go live with her father. And that whole first half of the film is kind of about the relationship, flashbacks to see what they have. And that's actually pretty effective and pretty powerful stuff. The part where this film, for me, really starts to fall apart is when the monster actually shows up. They, like you said, they break down in the woods. The tension of it initially at first is pretty good. It's out in the, you don't know that it's out there. You kind of hear it and kind of stuff. But then when they kind of go into full-on monster movie mode, it just seems to it just doesn't have that same oomph to me. And I don't know if because the makeup effects on the monster are not particularly good, or if the interspersing back to the flashbacks, which are proved to be more interesting than what's actually happening with a monster, which is hard to believe, but is actually true, at least in my perspective. I don't know. There was a lot about it that I just didn't. The parts of the horror movie aspects of this were just not effective for me.
Interesting. I don't know. I actually really enjoyed it. Okay. I thought it had a fantastic atmosphere, and I love the sound design. See, I have a nasty habit now. I watch these kind of films later on at night after my lovely wife goes to bed. She's not a big fan of scary movies, so I have to watch these late at night by myself with headphones on. So I got the surround sound kicking out directly into my ears, so it's always a little more intimidating that way. But I did enjoy the atmosphere. I love the sound design of it. I thought that was done exceptionally well. Though I have to admit, I think this is the first full Wilhelm scream / spider monkey monster. Because that was, I don't know if you noticed, it seemed to be the two sounds that the thing made when it was upset about something.
Yeah, there's some pigs in there. I heard some pigs in there too.
Okay,
so.
Fair enough. So I agree with you that the first half of this, or the first quarter, third, whatever, were exceptionally strong. I felt it was a cousin of the Babadook, right? Which is more about the interpersonal struggles between this mother and child, and that's the real horror of what's going on here. But the monster shows up. If I had any qualms with it, I think it would be the design maybe of the monster itself. I think one of the big successes for monster movies is when you slowly give us the reveal of the monster, right? Because as you know, Matt, your imagination is always 10 times more scarier than what you're actually going to see on screen. So I thought the buildup of that was good. And then we finally got the reveal. I confess to be a little underwhelmed. I like the fact that there's no explanation. We don't have a reason as to why or what this thing is. So I'm glad we don't waste a lot of time with any of that kind of backstory crap. I think that was a smart decision by Boitano. But still, overall, I thought as a monster movie, for me, it delivered the goods. It did. I was satisfied by the end of the film. I truly was. So I guess, I don't know. I must have been a little more forgiving of this thing than you were. I thought it had a lot. I thought the scary stuff was pretty good. I thought the horror stuff, for the most part, really, I thought delivered for me. If I had any detractions, as I said, it would be maybe the overall design of the monster. Maybe question the reveals, right? Maybe, like I said before, it does a good job of slowly revealing the monster. But then at the end, when we actually get to see it, I'm like, maybe it was because they didn't want to show you how kind of cheesy it looked in a way. I don't know. But I don't know. Overall, I still enjoyed it. If I had to give this thing a grade, I would actually go, I think I'd go B. I would go a solid B on this one. But I feel like you may be going a little lower.
Yeah, I'd give it like a C+. I wasn't blown away by this. I wouldn't say it's a complete misfire in A24. I think while you were talking, I was looking at the A24 list of films, and I think of the ones we've seen, Tusk is by far the most biggest stinker that they've released out of there.
That's fair.
But it's fine. I mean, it's middling. It's a gentleman's C+, a little bit higher than a gentleman's C. But I wouldn't go out of your way to see it. I mean, like you said, the design leaves something to be desired, and I don't know, the horror just didn't completely work for me.
Yeah, it's a hard line drive up the middle, but that's maybe a single, double if you stretch it out, but that'd be the extent. One thing I want to say, though, I think one of the keys to this film is Zoe Kazan, who plays the young, struggling mother, she's a horrible mom. But I think her performance in this is one of the standouts of this film and was worth at least some of the viewing for me. So I want to make sure she gets some props as well. But
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just a raw emotional performance by Kazan, a little underwhelming monster design, but for the most part, I think it's still it delivers the goods. I agree with you. I don't think you need to rush out and see it, but once it shows up on your streaming service of your choice, I would definitely check it out. Mm-hmm. I think it gives you enough for that. All right. If you've had a chance to see The Monster, please shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, let's take one more break. And let's hear a clip from something involving a movie that I'm thinking hopefully will be funny. That has something to do with what we're about to talk about. Because I clearly haven't prepped that part of the show yet. So let's all find out together, shall we?
Yo, peeps, you still here?
The seatbelt on the bind was busted.
Oh, damn.
It's called habeas corpus, motherfucker. That means due process for the illiterate.
It's called You Wanted to Play Games with Me, peoples. I know a shitload of games. You boys play nice.
Teflon Don Teflon. Bitch. Hey, Blanquito. What he give you for? Income tax evasion?
Fuck you.
Matt, this episode is zipping by. How exciting is this? We're going to be in and out of here before 5 o'clock.
That's all right.
All right. And I think for everybody else, too, we'll be happy that. So, Matt, here's our What Are the Odds segment. Why don't you explain to everybody what are the odds? What do we talk about here? What is this?
All right. So Chris and I are going to go back and forth giving each other hypothetical scenarios that are related to movies in the world of entertainment. The person being posed the question will have to come up with a percentage of likelihood or unlikelihood, depending on how it's phrased, such a thing is going to happen, and then discuss their reasons why.
Good times. All right, Matt. I think I went first whatever we did last week. So why don't you go first this week? What do you got?
All right. So the scuttlebutt is, the rumor out, I think, in the past couple of days is that Sony is not doing so well, which is not a big secret industry-wide, and they might actually sell off their TV and film divisions, which includes Columbia Pictures. So, Chris, what are the odds that Disney actually buys what Sony and Disney and Columbia got, and we get Spider-Man back in the fold permanently with Marvel? Because there's no way, and I'll go ahead and say this, there's no way if they're going to sell there's no way they're selling off pieces of their most valuable IP piecemeal back to Disney, because then they wouldn't be able to sell the rest of it, at least not for as much as they want.
That's the thing. Yeah, I don't know if they would sell Spider-Man, because you'd want to hold on. You want to hold on to Park Place. You want to hold on to the thing that has the highest probability of making you money, right? So I think they'd rather hold on to it so they can do stuff with it themselves, do the joint venture, and they still get some of that Marvel, that MCU money, because it's a partnership. So odds are that Spider-Man goes.
No. So the question is what are the odds that if Sony Pictures and Columbia Pictures are being sold wholesale to a buyer, and you have to take everything that they've got, what are the odds that Disney buys it?
Oh, all right. So say that they do go. What are the odds that it's Disney that pulls the trigger? I think it's like 95%.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, here's the thing. I don't know how many of the studios are really that strong right now as it is. MGM had their problems, so they just got out of bankruptcy about 5 years ago. There was scuttlebutt of them potentially selling off the Bond franchise, which would never have happened. But that was part of it. So, we got 20th Century Fox. They haven't been doing great either, right? So,
yeah, the other big ones are Paramount and Universal.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know how well that Star Wars film did for Paramount. So, I mean, Star Trek, most recent Star Trek film, though good. I don't. So I would say if anybody buys it, listen, Disney's got the pockets because they have Marvel and Star Wars.
Right.
They spent $1 billion on Star Wars,
and they've already made that back already because Rogue One just crossed $1 billion. So they've doubled their money just on Star Wars.
And it's not like it's a finite amount of films, and they got to let the properties go back. So they have more money than they know what to do with at this point. So that's why I say it's 95% that it'll be them. That'll be Disney. Yeah. And eventually Disney will have everything.
All movies will be Disney, just like all restaurants will be Taco Bell, and it will be there'll all be Trump Tower taco bowls. I wasn't really thinking that way. I initially was thinking that I didn't think there would be a lot of interest in Disney besides Spider-Man, what else Sony really had. Although the Spider-Man and all the stuff attached to it is pretty much a big deal. I couldn't think of, or I didn't even think to look up what other franchises they may have, or IPs they may have. But I think you're right. I think I don't see any other studio having the money in the clout to even buy it. And I think Disney could probably come in and say, Sony may be asking this and be like, no, we're going to pay you this, but it's still going to be higher than anybody else's. And I don't know if they're going to have any choice, really, if that's what they're really going to do. So, I'm with you now. You've convinced me. 95% that if they sell, it is going to go to Disney, which makes me happy.
There you go. So, I think part of it is, I think they actually have a distribution deal with MGM for the Bond films. Spider-Man, 21 Jump Street, Men in Black, Underworld, Resident Evil, Hotel Transylvania. Yeah, there is not a lot going on here. Columbia, they also own TriStar, Screen Gems, Young and the Restless. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
So that's what I mean. They've got that one shining jewel that Disney covets, but that's really it. It's like, do you take everything else with that?
Oh, and the Da Vinci Code stuff too. They own all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not it. Spider-Man, Men in Black, Underworld, Resident Evil, and Robert Langdon are their big franchises. Whoa, that is a castle built on quicksand. That is not good. All right, what was your percentage? 90?
No, I went 95%. I copied you exactly.
Right. I don't know why I'm bothering to write this down. All right, Matt, let me ask you. What are the odds? Any DC Cinematic Universe movie breaks 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. Ever? 90%. It's got to break.
It has to be DCEU. It can't be like some Elseworlds or Vertigo offshoot kind of thing, right? Assuming that Warner's ever grows the balls.
Like a Sandman movie or something. Yeah, no.
Right, or doing a Dark Knight Returns or something as a standalone film. If Warner's ever
it's got to be the DC Cinematic Universe. I want to say, and no, you could squeeze in and say, well, Elseworlds is part of that, but no, so no.
All right. All right, so yeah,
this current grouping that we're all talking about.
Okay, so what we know is coming out there. What's the likelihood that one of them breaks 90%?
And I'll give you likely properties. Like I'll throw in a potential Spectre or Dr. Fate film. I'll throw in a Challenge of the Unknown. I'll give you a Nightwing. Whatever you want. But it's
All right, so my feelings on the DCEU. I'm very, very critical and skeptical that they are going to be able to do anything. I'm going to be generous here, Chris. I'm going to say 65% chance that it gets to 90, that we get an over 90. And I think it's going to be make or break. And you know what it really is? From what I know, it's coming out. It's going to be Affleck's Batman. If that thing doesn't crack 90%, because there's no way Justice League is doing it. I'm sorry. Wonder Woman may be close. I have Flash. We'll see. But yeah, I think if it's not Batman with the kind of clout and what he can do, although Live by Night has not been doing very well as far as critics.
I was going to say, you may want to be careful with that.
Yeah,
34% on tomatoes right now.
Yeah, Live by Night's not doing so great, but I mean, Argo and The Town were all very well received, so I think it's going to be. I think Affleck's going to make or break this, but he's got some Justice League films before then, so people may be burned out on it if those do not do well. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying 65% chance, and I'm saying Affleck's going to be the one to do it, unless they come up with some other really hot shit director, and they really pull it together on something else. Jettison Snyder into the void of space where he belongs.
That's nice. I'm sure his family loved to hear that. I don't even know if I'm as confident as you. I'm going to go 62%. I am not.
You're scaling back your fanboyness a little bit.
Listen, I'm not saying I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm telling you, it's not going to correct it 90%. I'm not. I'm going over 50% that it'll happen, but I am not confident at all. And supposedly, the same source, who months before it came out said Batman v Superman is a mess and flawed and doesn't make a lot of sense. That same source said the same thing about Wonder Woman, that it's just a mess of a film and it's not very good.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I'm not getting confident.
Great.
I'm sorry, Chris. They're just taking your childhood dreams and just wiping their ass with it. I'm sorry. I feel bad for you.
Whatever. What do you got?
All right, so we're gonna stick with DCEU. I'm gonna give you a speed round, an obnoxious speed round one. Ready?
All right,
here we go. So we've got Green Lantern Corps coming up in 2020. They're going to cast Hal Jordan, and they've got a wish list. You give me the odds that these 6 actors. What are the odds that one of these is going to be Hal Jordan? You ready?
All right. Yeah.
Here we go.
Before you start, one of them is I think hilarious and brilliant, and I think should happen. But I just burned it. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. Yes. All right, Tom Cruise.
Ooh, as Hal Jordan.
That's Hal Jordan.
25%. He's just too damn old.
Okay. Bradley Cooper.
I could see it happening at like 58%, but I don't want it to.
Okay. Hey, maybe Tom Cruise is going to be Parallax version of Hal Jordan. He's all crazy and old.
That I would watch.
Yeah.
That would actually be interesting to see. Go ahead.
All right. So, and then this one's awesome. This is number 3, and I hope they do it so hard. Ryan Reynolds.
Yes. I would love for that to happen. I would.
for all the crap he's gave that film and all the crap he got for doing that film, that would be absolutely stunning.
You think he'd actually do it?
Yes, I think he actually would. If they came up with a decent script and they said, "Look, we know the other one kind of sucked. We think it'd be awesome if you did it. It would be hilarious," and I think he'd be on board. And if they brought him enough money as well.
Yeah, I think they'd have to have a little winking in jokes if he came back too. And I think part of the issue with that Green Lantern film was it happened right around they're doing it right around the writer's strike too. Wasn't that part of the issue?
Right. I think so.
I would go. You know what? Here's what I want. I want like 95%. I want him to be. I think he's perfect for the role. He really is. It's just that film was such a turd.
Yeah.
But will it happen?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna go 65% on that.
Okay. All right. Army Hammer.
I just don't.
AKA the Lone Ranger.
Yeah. I know.
It seems too blah.
Exactly.
No, it's for the audience out there.
I'll go 42% just because I'm pulling stuff out of my butt at this point. Go ahead.
Okay. Jake Gyllenhaal.
58 again, but I don't want to see it.
then the last one, this makes no sense to me at all, but I kind of want to see it. Although at the same time, I don't. Joel McHale, who we are big fans of, but I can't really see him as Hal Jordan.
No, that's like a 10%. No, that doesn't fit. Maybe as the voice of Nort, but that would be. Bradley Cooper can do Rocket Raccoon. He can do Nort.
Yeah, well, I mean, Joel McHale, maybe they're going to put him in a red wig and he'll be Guy Gardner. He could be an okay Guy Gardner. Yeah. You wanted a tall, skinny Guy Gardner, I suppose.
All right. What do you give it? What do you give those odds?
Yeah, I think Tom Cruise, unless they did a parallax thing, I think it's probably at 20%. I think Bradley Cooper's maybe the most likely at probably 70%. Ryan Reynolds, I want him 100% to do this, but I think it's going to be like 40% that he actually comes back. He got burned so bad. Yeah. Army Hammy is too boring, so let's say 10%. Joel McHale, that's impossible. I don't see how that would even work, 5%. And Jake Gyllenhaal, I would give him 50-50. I could see them if everybody else said no, they'd be like, all right, what about Jake Gyllenhaal? What's he up to? And he would do it.
Interesting. Let's see if any of those come to fruition. All right, Matt. There is talk of a Shaft remake.
Oh, okay.
So what are the odds that this new Shaft remake is better than John Singleton's attempt with Sam Jackson?
Who's involved? Do we know who's involved with the Shaft remake?
I don't even know yet if there's anything.
Nothing even out there?
Yeah, let's see if we can find anything. I'm fairly confident they just announced that they're working on it. But I don't know if anybody's actually attached to it at all.
Well, it looks like it's being written
by the people who did Blackish.
Yeah, I did Blackish, which I mean, do you think that they could actually make this a bit of a more of a comedy leaning thing? If they did that, I'd be on board. Really up some of the ridiculousness of this thing, of the entire process. I mean, but I was not a huge fan of the Shaft remake at all. So 60% chance that this thing's going to do better.
So he was the writer of Fantastic Four films, and he also involved with the ride-along movies.
Okay, I take that back.
Because Blackish is a great show, man. I don't know if you watch Blackish, but it is hilarious.
It is a good show
and very smart.
But Fantastic Four, that's like putting a lead weight around your
well, not the most recent one.
Ankle.
The two previous ones.
Yeah, that's not even that's not any better.
That's probably true.
Yeah, I mean, obviously nobody's really attached. I'll say 60% because there's only a place you can really only go up from here. I mean, not that the John Singleton version was terrible, but it wasn't.
It's not terrible.
It's not terrible, but it wasn't particularly good. It wasn't particularly memorable. So, whatever.
Listen, you should see if you haven't seen the 2000 version of Shaft. Sam Jackson's good in it, but Christian Bale and Jeffrey Wright are brilliant in that film. Those are two of my favorite performances, Matt, and they're both in that subpar movie. But if you haven't seen Christian Bale as the pretty boy, just a-hole yuppie guy, and then Jeffrey Wright as the drug dealer, it's worth seeing just for those two performances. Trust me. If you haven't seen it in a long time, rewatch it and just pay attention to those two, and they will make your enjoyment of that film that much better. I'm telling you, it's worth it just for Bale and Jeffrey Wright. What are the odds that it's better than the attempt with Sam Jackson? I'm gonna go 35% again because of my love for Bale and Wright in that movie. You can't replicate that kind of magic. You can't.
All this talk makes me want to watch Black Dynamite again. I haven't watched that in a while.
First run favorite. There's a couple films in the first run pantheon, and I think Black Dynamite is one of them.
That's one of them. That's one of them. Yeah, gem of film. All right, this is my last one, Chris. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
James Cameron. He gets all the rights to Terminator back in 2019.
This is my final.
Gearing up.
This is my final as well. Sorry to overtalk you, so go ahead. Start over.
No, that's okay. So James Cameron gets Terminator rights back in 2019. He's tapped Tim Miller to direct the first film, which he directed Deadpool. So what are the odds that this Terminator film is a complete reboot? Just reset the whole thing and start over.
Yeah, mine were what are the odds we get a continuation from Terminator 2, and then what is it that it's the odds that it's Genesis?
Yeah.
I think because this thing's all screwed up now timeline wise.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna pull a Bryan Singer and go and ignore the 3 films after Terminator 2.
Okay.
And we're gonna pick up after T2.
Okay.
I think. Or we'll pick up after T2, but we'll be in the future.
Okay.
All right. So we'll have an older Linda Hamilton, maybe. And then we'll recast John Connor yet again. And then hopefully we will not have a John Connor Terminator, which, first off, is not something you can do if you paid any attention to the first film or the second film. Not film logic, you can't. You just don't do it because of the mythology of the films. Right. And then you don't tell everybody that in the goddamn trailer. Anyway, so what are the odds, Matt? It's a total reboot. Clearly, I don't think that's the case. So I will say 17%.
Yeah, I think Cameron wants to go back and kind of course correct the thing. I mean, Terminator and Terminator 2 are classic sci-fi films. They're in the canon of sci-fi films. So I think he wants to keep contributing to that, and I don't think he wants to completely start it over. I'm with you. I think as far as a complete reboot, I'll say maybe 10%, but I agree with you. He's going to completely ignore, as well he should, Rise of the Machines, Salvation, Genesis, and just pretend that those never happened. And I think that's the right way to go. And I'm completely on board with that. I can certainly get on with that.
Yeah, I don't think Rise of the Machines is that bad. The third one?
No.
I don't think it's that bad.
I haven't seen it in so long. I can't really say, but I remember being underwhelmed by it when I saw it for the first time.
The problem is you're going up against Terminator 2, one of the archetypes of action films, one of the greatest summer blockbusters of all time. So, and Cameron's not even involved, really, right? He was a producer on that film, maybe?
I don't even think that.
So, I mean, that's the problem. It's still fine. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that's interesting. All right, we'll have to see what happens. I'm keen, though, to see what happens in 2019 when he gets to write. Well, we're talking the 2 years after that? So is it 2020, 2021? We'll get a Terminator film? I'm sure he's probably already working on it, though.
Yeah. I'm sure he's moving along. He wants to strike while he can, because he's got some Avatar films that have been taking up a lot of his time.
Why is that taking so long? And first off, is there a smaller, like, built-in following fan base for a gigantic film than Avatar? Avatar, one of the biggest, if not the biggest film of all time, not adjusted for inflation, is Avatar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's been the cultural impact of that film?
Nothing. It's a joke. It's literally a punchline is what that film is.
So do we really need to wait 10 years before we get a sequel that nobody really even probably just wants to see?
Hey, Disney's opening in Avatar Land. So, hey, that's something.
All right. Well, as we all know, I typically have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. All right. Next week, Matt, what's up next week? All right, so where are we? I'm going to see the Silence.
Yeah, I've seen Silence. I'm going to be seeing The Founder, and I'm going to sneak in Split, too, just because I've heard really, really good things. So I want to check it out.
I have seen The Founder. So I am going to try and do. I'll try and get Silence and Split in. No guarantees. I am not. If you haven't heard, I have a housing flux thing going on. So we'll see how that's all going to shake out. So in the meantime, though, and I still got to see Hidden Figures. Maybe, I don't know. There's a lot to get done. Anyway, you can count on Silence no matter what, and then we'll go from there. We'll also figure out the next film in our horror marathon. It might be Southland. We're not entirely sure about that. Either way, as always, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. You can also find us on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere, as well as the website itself. Oh, Matt, Patterson. I know you want to see Patterson as well.
I do want to see it, although I have no idea when it's coming out up here.
Yeah.
So not anytime soon.
All right. Well, we're going to take an extended break now, and we'll see y'all soon. Take care.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Chief Master Sergeant William Candy. I was honored to be selected by CRS in the ongoing effort to save American lives.
I don't know about that accent.
We can fix it.